Evolution of Music by Elisabeth Stevens. Music is a huge part of the world's culture. It tells of who the country is and what it means through simple or elaborate tunes. Popular to classical music, each country and culture has music to call its own. Prehistoric music, early music, and ancient music. Prehistoric music, once more commonly called primitive music, is a name given to all music produced in pre-Paleolithic cultures, or prehistory. Prehistoric music is followed by ancient music in most of Europe, 1500 BC, and in later history exists in European-influenced isolated areas. Music is mostly vocal or was played with a flute. Where music was first recorded through art depictions, ancient Greeks created art that has changed our music. They often played music in marriages, funerals, and religious ceremonies. Greek music came in several modes/scales, which gave the music its characteristics. These modes were Dorian, Phrygian, and Lydian. Scales like minor and major gave the music more characteristics to give to the tone of the music. The Greeks used many types of instruments such as the lyre, kithara, alus, panpipes, and hydraulis. The lyre and kithara were string instruments, while alus and panpipes were woodwinds. The hydraulis is a keyboard-like instrument, much like an organ. Chinese, Indian, Native American, Jewish, Greek, Roman, and Southwest Asian music has evolved and has many characteristics that can be found within its own culture. There's evidence that these forms of music have existed since 2500 BC. For example, Indian classical music, Marga, is popular amongst the Hindu culture. The instruments as well have changed, such as the Ravana Hatha, a popular ancient instrument of Western India. Western art music. Medieval music was written during the Middle Ages. The era started with the fall of the Roman Empire in the 5th century and ends around the 15th century. Instruments such as the lute and the flute were extremely popular and played often. Hilgerd van Bingen, Mignon d'Arras, and Adam de la Halle were a few of the known composers of the period. Music was an important part of religious life in the Renaissance. The huge changes in many art incorporated subjects led to the period in the 1400s and 1600s, which gave to major changes in styles of composing, methods of playing, new musical genres, and the development of musical instruments. The most important music of the early Renaissance was composed for the use by the church, which was an important source of income. Some important composers of the period are Giovanni Pigulli da Pellestrina, Orlando de Lassus, and Vincenzo Galilei. The instruments varied with brass to percussion to strings and to aerophones, or woodwinds. The Baroque period, which means oddly shaped pearl, started in the era of music which had instrumental music. This particular period took place during the 19th century. Some of the popular composers of this period are Johann Bach, Handel, Monteverdi, Coletti, and Vivaldi. Similar to the Renaissance, many forms of instruments existed. However, keyboards became more popular with other various instruments. The classical period gave music accompaniments during the 1750s and 1820s. Melodies of the period were also extremely melodious, which created the loss of compositions of opera singing and music. However, some still produced opera in their own native language. Some of the famous/well-known composers were Bach, Beethoven, Stravinsky, and Mozart. The instruments of the period were similar to Baroque, however percussion is excluded as the keyboards became more popular. Romantic music denotes an era of Western classical music that started in the late 18th or early 19th century. It was related to Romanticism, the European movement that became in the second half of the 18th century. The Romantic period produced emotional and expressive music by using various tones with woodwinds and percussion/strings. The famous composers of the period are Chopin, Schumann, Mendelssohn, Bellini, and Berlioz. Modern music revolutionized music by so much because of its improvements in technology. Music is mass-produced and allowed many artists to experiment on different forms of music and to loosen the boundaries of the genres. Also, being able to share music via radio or internet made it easier to bring new genres and trends to the world of music. Many popular versions of music is pop, hip-hop, rock or classical rock, indie/alternative, classical, jazz, etc. These genres have given the world new ways of music instead of the various versions of the same genre during the period. Folk music is also in existence, by which is passed down through families based on their culture. Many instruments of this period are percussion, keyboards/pianos, strings, brass, and woodwinds. Many of these have been revolutionized and are powered by electricity.